now. There we go. Hey guys, welcome back to our Meaningful Monday live stream. My name is Joby Haralal, and we're here talking about stuff that means stuff to us. Before we get into it, though, first of all, I want to thank everyone for tuning in, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching after the fact. Please hit the like button if you like the video and hit subscribe to be notified of future videos. And then on top of that, I want to make an announcement. I'm partnering with my brother. You'll see the video later tonight with the instructions on how to enter this thing, but we're doing a giveaway for a PS5. So if you are interested in that or know anyone who's interested in getting a PS5, follow along on my Instagram and on YouTube as well for the announcement information about that. We'll be talking about that later tonight in terms of how to enter and how to make sure that you're in the running for this kind of thing, because it's a really cool prize. Honestly, I thought so anyway, because I'm a video game guy, but obviously I'm a nerd, so I like this kind of stuff. But if you're interested or anyone interested in getting a PS5, follow along. You can share the post with them once it goes live. Today I want to talk about motivation, though, because that's a lot of people do motivation Mondays. I like meaningful because it's more about meaning than it is about motivation. But motivation is one of those things where you have people talking about being motivational speakers or coming in to motivate their staff. And I think on the management side of things, motivation is one of the things where it can be kind of elusive. And there are a number of reasons for that. Motivation is it's ultimately the why behind what you're doing, why you're doing what you're doing. And I think people don't necessarily remember the why as much. So there are two things that I want to talk about. One is that upfront step, the importance of that upfront step of saying, why am I doing what I'm doing right now? What is the ultimate goal I'm trying to get to? And that goal is not necessarily going to be money, right? Money is not a means to, it's just a means to an end. It's not an end in and of itself. Money doesn't do anything by itself. It helps you get something else, right? Money enables you to have freedom, or enables you to spend money on things that matter to you, or buy the things that matter to you, or provide for your family, or for you, your people that matter to you in your life. But money itself is not an end, right? People who just focus on getting money, they tend to end up feeling empty. What's the why behind that money, right? If people don't take the time to define what that looks like for them, then they don't actually ever feel fulfilled when they get that. You can make $1 million, you can make $10 million. And if you don't know why you're making that money, then what's the point of it, right? But on the management side of things, as a business owner or as a manager, as a leader in an organization, how do you motivate your people? And what, more importantly, what causes people to lose motivation? So a couple of things with that. One is just poor leadership, right? And I'm not saying necessarily you might be the poor leader, but you may have people working underneath you who are operating in leadership capacity, who may not be good at what they're doing, who may not be good at leading. And when that's the case, then you're ultimately going to have staff that's not motivated, staff that morale is going to suffer, culture will suffer. People in your organization are not going to be responding to what you want them to respond to. They're going to do the bare minimum and just kind of show up, earn their money, and get the heck out, right? But in an organization, you want people who actually enjoy being there, or at least are willing to contribute and go the extra mile when you need them to. If you don't have that, if you don't build that culture of camaraderie, that culture of supporting one another and happy employees, you're not going to get the work out of them that you want. And you're not going to get the quality of work, more importantly, that you want. And definitely not the quantity. People will come in at 9 and they'll leave at 5. They're not going to spend an extra time. They're not going to spend any extra energy unless they happen to speak to the why behind the organization as a whole. I worked at one organization a couple of years ago, and it was a government agency, and they had a really amazing mission, right? They did great work in the community, across the country, across the world, actually. And it was just wrought with poor management. And part of it was, yes, the administration was just not really great. But even before that, it was across several different administrations that this organization had eventually declined. And they had a 30% vacancy rate. Why is that? They had people that were doing 4 or 5 jobs consistently for multiple years, not months, not weeks, but years. And part of that, yes, is government bureaucracy, but it's also just a failure of leadership. Leadership never got aligned in their vision. They never got aligned in what they wanted for the organization. They never got behind their why. So when you have a leadership team operating in an organization, whether it's public or private sector, if that leadership team is not aligned in why they're there, or if you don't know why the other people in leadership are operating in those capacities, you're going to have those conflicts. You're going to have things that they may not be direct conflicts. They may not be explicit conflicts. They're actually more insidious, actually, because they're under the surface. You got one leader over here talking about, they want to push the organization's mission forward, and this other guy over here is really trying to push himself forward. That's going to clash eventually, even subtly. And ultimately, you have people who are going to be after their own legacy, and people who are going to be after the legacy of the organization, and that's not going to work out very well. And at the leadership level, and then on top of that, as the lower you get in the organization, it's going to be less and less morale. So how do you combat that? Well, one is to work on leadership development, right? Get these people to understand what their why is, and on the leadership level, on the top level. Get them aligned. Let them know what everyone's after. If you know that guy's looking for a legacy, or you can read that person and understand who they are and what their goals are, there's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing inherently wrong with wanting to leave a legacy for yourself and for the people that matter to you. As long as you actually are not conflicting with other people who want to leave a legacy for the organization, you guys can both achieve your goals. But if when push comes to shove and you have to choose between those things, which one of those things wins? And if you have two leaders at the same level, that's going to cause conflict between them and the people that work below them. And when that happens, it's not the leaders at the top that suffer in the long term. It's the people on the bottom, because they're going to end up feeling those conflicts. They're not going to be able to get work done, and they're going to get blamed when things don't get done. And then they end up leaving. They end up having poor reviews, and they're just not happy. And then work doesn't get done. So one is to ultimately get aligned in the leadership level, at the top level of organizations. Make sure that everyone is on the same page, everyone knows what's going on and how to actually operate effectively for the sake of the organization as a whole, and for the sake of the employees, the people that work for them, and the people that are actually doing the work. But the second thing to do is also look at how the employees are interacting with each other, right? How are they being respected? What are their wishes? What do they want for themselves? Get under their whys, right? Why are they there? Are they being listened to? Are they being supported? Are they empowered to do what they need to do? Are they being respected at the most basic level, right? I mean, and then that doesn't even speak to the whole concept of, inclusion and diversity work, which is also another layer. There's many, many layers to this. But at the most basic thing is just respect. If you don't respect your employees, if you don't pay attention to what their needs are and what they're looking for in their careers, in their roles in that organization, if you don't pay attention to what they're telling you in terms of what's working and what's not working, if you don't even open that dialogue to them, that's a basic level of respect that you're not doing. Now, outside of organizations that where people are paid, there are membership organizations too, where you pay into membership and you want a voice, you want to be respected, because not only you're not getting paid, but you're actually paying to be there. So why would I pay to be part of an organization that doesn't respect me, that doesn't care about what my opinion is, and doesn't care about serving me as a paying member? I mean, put something in the chat, like let me know in the comment section below if you've been part of a membership organization or any kind of organization, volunteer, paid or otherwise, where you just don't feel like your voice is being heard or paid attention to or valued. What do you feel like? What does that feel like for you? Do you want to stay a member of that organization? Do you want to contribute your time and energy to that organization? Or do you want to say, you know what, screw it, I'm out. I'm going to go somewhere else, either start something from scratch or join something else where my voice is being heard or is being cared about. That's what happens a lot of times when people there's a disconnect between leadership and the people on the grassroots, on the ground level. And so one of the most important things you can do as a leader in any kind of organization is to pay attention to the people on the ground. Listen to their voices, ask them what they want. Listen to their opinions and actually care what they say. Don't just do a survey to say, oh, look how great a job we're doing. Let's look at ourselves on the positive side of things. Let's pat ourselves on the back. Who cares about that? Who cares if the survey says you're doing great and in the 15 different levels if you have 100 over here that you suck at, right? I'm not saying focus on the negatives, but I'm saying look at the opportunities for growth. There's a reason that these things are coming up. There's a reason people are saying we need more, more funding for this. We need more resources for this. We need more help on the people side of things for this team. This team has a lot of support. This team has zero support. These teams are not working together well. What can you do about that? That's going to really impact the ultimate results that the organization is able to deliver. If you ignore those for your own personal gains or your own personal insecurities for that matter, that's the other thing. Insecurity as a leader, which I did a video about a while ago. Insecurity is one of the biggest killers of leadership. Honestly, probably the number one killer of leadership is insecurity. Not being willing to hold a mirror up and look at yourself and say, how can I improve as a leader? How am I actually doing as a leader? If you're not able to look at that and say, how do I improve and keep improving that 1% every year or every insert period here, right? If I'm not looking at myself and trying to reevaluate how I'm doing as a leader and really eliciting feedback from people who I'm leading, how do I lead you better? How do I make sure that your voice is being heard? Then I'm not doing my job as a leader and I'm not going to improve as a leader. And the motivation of my team is ultimately going to go down because they will know that their voice is not respected, that they're not respected on a base level, and they're going to leave. They're going to go somewhere where they are respected or where they think they're going to be respected. Whether they're right or wrong doesn't matter because the ultimate result for me is I lose my team members and I got to onboard somebody. Transitions are one of the biggest costs to organizations. And it's a really subtle cost people don't necessarily look at because it's so spread out. When you lose an employee in an organization, you lose not just that employee and the work that they did, whether it's good or bad or ugly, right? You lose the institutional knowledge that they had. You lose the connections that they had, the dynamics that they had with other members of the team. You also lose the time that it takes to onboard a new person once you end up hiring them. You also lose the time that it takes to hire someone, to find someone qualified for the position. And what happens when you take too long to hire somebody? You start rushing. You rush the process. Like, I got to hire somebody right now. We need to fill that position. No, you don't. You need to fill it with the right person, not just fill the position just to fill the position. It's great if you got bodies in seats, but what if they're just there to hang out? What if they don't know what the hell they're doing? You don't need a person. You need the right person in the right seats. And then once they get there, you have to onboard them properly and make sure that they have what they need to be successful. If they don't, they're going to leave again. And studies have shown that it takes, depending on the organization and the complexity of the organization, it takes between 6 and 9 months sometimes to onboard somebody for them to be fully functional in that role. And it can take a little 3 months, sure, but that's in a non-complex organization. In a really complex organization, you're talking about 9 months. That's 9 months of their salary where you're paying them to learn about the organization. They can be amazing at their jobs. And yes, some of them can jump in and really hit the ground running, but 6 months on average is a long time. That's half a year. That's half somebody's salary you're paying them to understand what's going on with them. That's the cost of losing an employee, whether they're good or bad, right? That's the cost to the organization, to the business owner, to losing an employee. And that can all be prevented if you're looking at things from the point of view of the employee and saying, how do I serve the employees better? Because then ultimately they're going to serve you better. If you don't do that, you run the risk of dealing with high turnover, poor culture, and just low motivation. That's the real cost of poor leadership. One of the many real costs of poor leadership. Any questions, feel free to post them below. Today was a relatively short one, obviously, but I think it was a very targeted issue that came up for me over the weekend. I was talking with some clients, and this came up. And it's something that I think it's worth pointing out and talking about. I know I discussed the insecurity in leadership before a little bit, and the motivation as well in my other videos, but this is kind of a little bit of a different spin on that one in terms of the cost of transition work and the cost of onboarding and the cost of turnover. So if you guys like this video, hit the like button and hit subscribe, hit the notification bell if you want to get notified of future videos. But please, if this resonates with you or anyone you know, please share this again with those folks and let them check it out. And feel free to comment below if you've had experience with poor leadership where either you left, you wanted to leave, or you know people who left, or where the organization culture just caused a lot of turnover. And there was other costs. There was human costs, right, to the picking up that slack and whatever. And we didn't even talk about that part of things, where the other people on the team have to pick up the slack while you're trying to hire someone else and while you're trying to onboard, because those other people need to train them as well. So those are all costs that you don't necessarily see. They're not like upfront costs that you look at, but they're ultimate costs in an organization. Thanks again, guys. Tune in. Don't forget to tune in tonight about the giveaway. We'll be letting you guys know about that later. So stay tuned and don't forget to subscribe. Talk to you guys again soon. Take care. Have a great week.